I'm John McQuay with 8541 Tactical, and this is Mail Call Mondays, the show that answers your questions about precision rifles, optics, and equipment. Welcome to another Mail Call Mondays, and today we are going to talk about what I take to a precision rifle match or what I take to the range on a general range day. We got this question a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, and so I figured I would just throw my gear up here and kind of tear through it and show you guys the important bits. First of all, let's talk about what I have over here. This is a Magnetospeed chronograph, and we are actually finishing up the full review on the Magnetospeed chronograph. And what it is a electric or an electromagnetic chronograph instead of an optical chronograph. Like maybe a lot of you guys are used to with sky screens and all the stuff that you have to set forward of the line. The Magnetospeed works off the magnetic effect of the bullet passing over this bayonet sensor, and it clamps to your barrel, and it makes it really quick and easy if you're out at a match and you have a problem. Sometimes you can pull off to the side of the line, and it may be something with your ammo, maybe something with your barrel, and a chronograph can help you get that lined out really quickly. It's really easy to use. It's something that you can usually do on the 0 lane at a competition, so it always goes in the car with me. The only time I really don't take it is if I fly to a match, because then I'm trying to limit the gear. Next thing is a good shooting mat. Some competitions, the firing line may be muddy, it may be wet, it may be nasty, and the ability just to throw down a shooting mat makes things a little bit nicer. Sometimes too, some competitions may not be held in the most improved ranges, and they may have a piece of equipment or something with sharp edges, or anything that is just something you don't want your body pressed against. And it's nice to have one of these as an option. I usually don't actually take it out to each of the firing points unless I have some information ahead of time, but it will usually stay in the back of the car. It's also obviously great for my regular range days, since I usually shoot on a concrete firing pad or a rock pad. Then the shooting mat helps me stay a little bit cleaner. And now that we're getting into the cooler months, the shooting mat is great for insulating your body from the ground. Again, if I'm flying, I generally don't take it. I'll just plan on getting muddy. Now we get to the backpack that I use. This is a Maxpedition Pygmy Falcon. I don't actually think they make this backpack anymore. It's kind of a nice, smaller day pack kind of backpack. It's kind of narrow, which I like, because when I'm carrying a rifle, if you have a really wide backpack, then the rifle's always catching and bumping on the backpack. With this, it's nice and narrow. I don't have that problem. Let's go over the stuff that I've got stuck on the outside of it first. I have a bunch of bags on here, and I'll try to get them off kind of one by one. First, this is just a Petzl carabiner I have on here. I do climb, and so I've started to try to remove out of all my gear any non-climbing carabiners, because I really don't want them to get mixed in with my climbing gear. So this is actually a climbing rated, a load rated carabiner, and they really aren't that expensive. So I prefer now to buy load rated climbing carabiners anytime I have to buy a climbing carabiner for anything. And this is just a regular gated carabiner. It's not a screw lock or anything like that. So carabiner there, and it just helps with these bags. These bags are constantly getting dirty and nasty, so you don't really want to keep them inside your backpack, and they're all really lightweight. So a carabiner and snapping them on the outside makes it really easy to select the bag that you want for the shooting problem you have. And when they're covered in mud and dirt, or they're soaking wet because it's raining, you can snap them back on the outside of the pack, and you don't get it all over all the nasty stuff inside. This is a Tab Gear bag. I've recently started using this guy. I picked it up off of a prize table, and it's got quite a few nice options. It's got these strings on the side that allow you to really compact the bag down and make it really firm. or slack it out quite a bit. They also help you if you want to hang it on your bipod or hang it around the fore end of your rifle, or really, you know, whatever you happen to have in mind. And it's got a cross strap here and a cross strap here. Again, you could thread your bipod legs through it and use it on a barricade if you wanted to, or this, I could probably actually get the whole fore end of the rifle through if I wanted to go that way. So this variety of bags just gives me options, and I may not take all of them out to the firing point. I may not take all of them on the bag, but I keep them all clipped there, so when I'm gearing up for a specific arena or a specific range or facility, then I can grab what I want to grab and leave what I don't need. So that's the tab gear bag, and I'll leave links to all this gear down in the comments section below. My current favorite rear bag is the Short Action Precision Run and Gun bag, and I like it because it's got this little QD on the back, so I can snap it into the buttstock on most of the rifles. It's also got a quick release, a side release buckle, and a strap here, which I will use this to go over the fore end of my rifle, and I'll use it as a barricade bag very often. It's got some nice non-skid reinforcement on the bottom, so I'm not going to tear it up if I'm using it on some hard equipment. And it's just a really good overall size, so it gives me good position as a rear bag, and also the ability to use as a front bag off a barricade. So again, really nice assortment of options there. Next we'll get into a fore end bag or a barricade bag, and this guy is a Wiebad bag, and it's for rifles that I have a strip of loop tape on the fore end, and I can just velcro this to the bottom of the rifle and drop it on barricades. This works really well on like antenna sections where you have round tube or round pipe, because it will sit in there and it will really lock in to that pipe. Again, I think this was a prize table win. They really aren't that expensive, but really nice piece of equipment. The one drawback to this bag is it is kind of limited. I mean, I guess you could use it as a rear bag, but you're not going to get a whole lot out of it, so it really is just a fore end bag. It's a little bit heavier since it feels like it's got polyfill in it, or poly pellets rather, the little plastic beads. So it's got some weight to it, whereas these that have just fiber fill to them are fairly lightweight. And in fact, I think that the tab bag actually has styrofoam fill in it, so it's really lightweight. Next, we'll get over into the big bags here. And this great big one, this is a Wiebad pump pillow. This was really the first bag that I got when I started using these shooting bags. And this is my go-to for barricade shooting. It will almost always just be put on my strong side arm, sometimes my support side, depending upon how things are set up. But what it does is it closes up the space between my arm and my body when I'm shooting off the barricade. We actually have a video out there of, or a review on our website of me using the bag, so we'll make sure we link to that below. And it also, if I'm doing something on a barricade where I can come down and I'm a really high kneeling position, like one knee down, then I can use my elbow and I can place the bag on the top of my thigh and really lock that position down. So basically you just think of this as filler for any of the open spots in your position when you're shooting off of various barricades and various obstacles. And it works really well. Again, it's got the fiber reinforcement in it, so there's really almost no weight to it. It truly is a pillow. Also, if you don't get these things too nasty, in car trips or on airplanes, they work great as an actual pillow to sleep on. Throw your jacket over it or something, because it is pretty heavy duty material. I think it's 1000 denier Cordura, so you wouldn't really want to put your face on it. You'll probably wake up with a really nice rash, but throw your jacket or something over it, and they do work great as in-car pillows. Quite a few guys have used them as that going to and from the matches. The next one, and I will tell you, these all have these ITW Nexus carabiners. They work okay, but sometimes the gates will stick open on them, and I have had bags fall off of my bag before because the gate stuck open. So again, replacing all those with Petzl climbing carabiners that I don't have that problem with. The advantage of the plastic ones is they don't clank together, whereas the aluminum Petzl carabiners, they can get noisy sometimes if you've got a lot of them on your gear. And the last of the bags is this little guy here, also from Wiebad. This is a Wiebad Tac Pack. And this is just the shorter brother to the pump pillow. And again, the reason I got this is because sometimes there are situations where this is just too large. And what I really find myself using this the most for is the forend of my rifle. I will thread the forend of the gun through here and then sit it down on various different barricades, and it works really well in that capacity. I can still slide it on, I can still use it as a bag on my support side or my strong side arm. That's really what it was designed for, but for me, it works great as a forend bag. So again, this is just a huge pile of options that I have here that I can use for whatever I need, whatever the shooting situation has. Do you need all this stuff? Absolutely not. You don't need any of it. I still will go out and shoot some barricade days where I don't have any of this support gear, because you will occasionally find a match, especially law enforcement or military matches, where they may outlaw that and you can't run bags, you can't run any extra support gear. You just have to use the rifle, your body, and the barricade. So it's a good idea to train with a variety of this different stuff. That way you're a more versatile shooter. You can approach the problem however you need to approach the problem. And again, I don't carry all this stuff on my bag. I will usually have it all in the car, and I will pick and choose what I'm going to take out depending upon what the shooting situation is, what the rules are, and how the stages are spaced out. A lot of the matches now you can actually drive from stage to stage, so it's nice to be able to go look at the stage, go, okay, this is the gear that I'm going to need, and go back to the car and use the car like my gearbox to, or my toolbox to bring out the tools I need to shoot the stage. Next, let's talk about what is in my bag here. And I actually haven't cleaned this thing out recently, so there is more than likely a lot of extra junk in here. I'll talk about what's on the outside first. This is a Leatherman Mutt tool, and we have done a review on this guy. It's a really nice plier and multi-tool, and it's really heavy duty. So pretty much anything you're going to need to fix in the field, you can use this guy for. The jaws on the pliers are strong enough that if you have a nut that you don't actually have a driver for, you can get these on and you can tighten up or loosen them down. It's not the best technique, but if you have a scope mount that came loose, obviously there's nothing you can do with that. At least if you can get some pliers on it and crank it down, then you can, run off of your zero shift and get some rounds down range and maybe salvage the day. So a good set of pliers is a really, really nice thing to have. Additionally, this has various different bits, so I can use Torx bits, flat blade, Phillips head, all that stuff. And of course it does have a regular knife blade too, which is nice to have, even though I usually carry a pocket knife in my pocket. So that just stays stuck on the outside of the bag. And it's survived really, really well. It's gotten soaking wet more times than I can count, and it really hasn't started to rust. I don't take it out and oil it and dry it out and clean it all the time. So it's done a really good job surviving there. Let's go with the outside pocket first and just pull some of the junk I have in here out. And let's see what all we have here. First of all, Write and Rain notebook. And I use it to either write down stages, write down notes, various different things that the gun is doing. I like this size because it's big enough that I can actually do some decent notes in it instead of the really tiny pocket notebooks. But the tiny pocket notebooks also have their place. They're a little bit easier just to stick in a pants pocket. Write and Rain paper, because you really never can tell. You may have to get a stage brief in the pouring rain. and I'll usually use a Fisher Space Pen, which writes on these really well. Pencils write on them really well too, and you generally don't have to worry about the ink smearing with those two. So notebook, I have different note cards in here. These are just pre-cut index cards, and those cards are actually for this guy I have in the outside pocket here, which is a wrist coach. This happens to be an Under Armour brand. Nike makes some. You can go into just about any sporting goods store and get them, and they hold index cards, and they actually hold quite a few index cards. So you can put your various different stage layouts or stage notes on them. And they're fairly big, so you can even draw a diagram of the stage on it if you want. I will usually slide that on my support side arm if I'm using it, so I can look at it and have all my information scribbled out there. It does not take standard 3x5 cards. They're a little bit smaller than that, so I have a bunch that I have pre-cut and got ready to go. Scope tools. I have this little Ziploc bag here, and it is just full of different Allen wrenches. And I've talked to you guys about this little trick before. What I will do when I get a scope is I will take my label maker and I will make a label for that scope and put it on its corresponding Allen key. And this does two things for me. When I grab the bag, if I know, like this is a Leupold 3-9, if I know I'm using that scope, I can just grab this wrench out and go. There are a couple other in here that are very similar to this size, but not exactly this size. So those may be not what I need, and I could spend an extra 10 minutes trying to fish through. When you're on a stage and you're trying to fix something before you have to go up and shoot, time is of the essence. So you want to be able to get it done quickly, efficiently, and then go on about your day. The second thing that these little flags do for me is if you drop this guy in the grass, the flag makes it really easy to recover, whereas if you drop it in the grass without the flag on it, it may be gone forever. So that is just a really helpful little hint, and that alone has made my label maker worthwhile. I have two sets of bits for the multi-tool here. And these are just various different Torx bits and flathead bits and Allen bits. So pretty much just about any scope mount out there I should be able to fix with the Leatherman tool and these guys here. This is, we've been working with the M40A1 and the US Optics MST100, and these are scope tools that are specific to the MST100. It has a spanner wrench in here and a couple of Allen keys that are specific to that scope. And this bag, this has just got stuff for both these bags here. For the LR17 and the SN3, again, US Optics scopes, and they use a different scope cap or trim cap on the elevation turret. You have to put on the cap with the hole in it to be able to actually adjust the elevation on the scope. So I just keep that in here because it's lightweight, really doesn't add any weight to it. Not something I need very often, but it's in the bag should I need it. Let's go to the next pocket, which is this medium-sized pocket on here as I'm throwing stuff off the bench. The medium-sized pocket here, and this is where I keep all my quick action stuff that I'm constantly grabbing in and out that doesn't fit in that little flat pocket. This pocket opens up a whole lot wider, so it's easier to see down in here. The main tool that I'm taking in and out all the time is my Kestrel. This is the Applied Ballistics Kestrel Elite version. And this is what I am currently using, and it has been very accurate and very reliable for me. We won't talk a whole lot about this here because I really can fill up a whole 2-hour video just talking about the Kestrel if I wasn't careful. So right now, this is my main ballistics computer, and it always stays in the outside of that bag. It's water resistant, so it doesn't need any extra waterproofing. Rain's not going to hurt it in any way, shape, or form. Next, I got a pair of mechanics gloves. These are, I believe these are their covert gloves, because instead of the white mechanics on it, it's kind of a coyote color. And you know, most of my stuff is subdued colors. I don't do a whole lot of the bright color stuff because I don't know what situation I'm in. This bag goes with me to law enforcement and military style matches, as well as the regular civilian PRS matches. So these gloves have worked really well. As you can see, the palms on this one is really ugly. Don't grab hot suppressors with these kind of gloves. They don't work well. I wasn't even thinking about it. Came off of a stage at a school I was at, and thought my suppressor was coming loose and reached down to make sure it was tight and didn't even think about how hot that suppressor was. And luckily I had the glove on, so I just melted the palm of the glove, but didn't harm my hand any. Although I will say the mechanics gloves work really well, because even though it shined up the palm of the glove, they still work just great. I've been using these gloves for a couple of years after that happened. So gloves are nice, not necessarily for the warmth, but because some barricades are really chewed up or shot up or torn up, and throwing these gloves on allows me just to get up there and aggressively grab the barricade and do what I need to do without worrying about getting a palm full of splinters or slicing my hand up on metal or anything like that. Additionally, if you run a stage where you're using car or shooting from the inside or outside or around cars, stage cars usually will have busted glass on them, and again, it's just nice not to come away and find yourself bleeding. So I'll throw gloves on whenever the barricades look kind of ratty, or if I'm shooting on, in, or around vehicles. Got batteries for the various different devices and ear pro that I carry. Extra batteries whenever you're working with anything electronic are always nice to have. These are lithium batteries, so they're not really going to be affected badly by the cold. Got some grease and some oil in here, TW25B grease and Miltech 1 oil. I don't really subscribe to any one specific grease or oil, just whatever works. These come in nice little applicators and nice little tubes, so it's easy to keep in my bag and not worry about it. Oh, got extra ear pro in here. These are Surefire ear defenders, just in case my electronic ears go down, or I'm in some kind of situation where the electronic ears are interfering. I like to wear over-the-ear electronic ear muffs, but a lot of people really don't. Sometimes they can mess with your stock weld. Sometimes if you're working in really strange positions, they can get bumped or knocked off. So it really just depends upon the situation. Gum. I almost always have gum in my bag. It's just a habit I have. Some people smoke cigarettes, some people dip. I chew gum. Maybe a little bit more healthy, but whatever floats your boat. Foam ear pro, these aren't necessarily for me. I keep these in here in case spectators find themselves out there without ear pro, or if another competitor has some issues with their ear pro, or also for my wife. Sarah prefers foam ear pro over just about anything else she's tried, so I keep those in there for her as well. This is a bore snake. This happens to be for 243, which is the last rifle that I was shooting. I don't like bore snakes as regular cleaning aids, but I do like them for an emergency cleaning situation. If you spear your rifle into some mud, if something gets in there, you think you've got something in your chamber, it's nice to be able to just drag the bore snake through it and have that peace of mind. This is the 243 bore snake. My 243 barrel on the Accuracy International AE Mark II does not have a break or anything on the front of it. It's just a plain target muzzle. So I do have to worry about sometimes getting stuff in there. I had one match out at Rock Castle quite a few years ago where I staged my rifle. I was off doing something, came back to my rifle, and some considerate individual had come along with muddy boots and actually kicked the front of my rifle because there was mud smashed onto the muzzle. And I know it wasn't for me. When I set the rifle down, the muzzle was clear before I walked away from it. And it didn't actually pack mud into the muzzle, but I could see there was just a little bit inside the crown, inside that first inch of the barrel. So I was able to grab the bore snake, throw it through there, pull it out, and make sure that my bore was clear and didn't have any problems, and then went on to shoot. So just really nice to have things like that for little contingencies. I like the bore snake because it's easier than carrying a full cleaning rod, but sometimes I will usually, and I didn't put it out here, I will usually carry an M Pro 7 cleaning kit, the full military cleaning kit with me as well, which actually has rigid steel rods in it that I can screw together. So if I have a bore stoppage, or if I have an actual case stuck in the chamber, I can knock that out. And one thing also that I didn't put out here while I'm thinking about it, if I am driving to a match, I will usually carry a full-length cleaning rod. If I'm flying, sometimes I will put it in the case if it will actually fit in the case, sometimes not. But I like using a Dewey full-length one-piece cleaning rod just on that odd situation where you may get a stuck case in your rifle. It's easier just to run that cleaning rod in there, knock it out, and then get on with things, rather than run around like a chicken with your head cut off trying to find someone with a cleaning rod to tap that case out. I had an issue at Frontline Defense when I shot the Guardian match down there, where I had a stuck case inside the rifle. It was actually a stuck live round inside the rifle. I'm still not entirely certain what happened on that situation, but I needed to be able to get a cleaning rod down and knock it out, and a bore snake or a cable really wasn't going to do it. It needed to be a rigid rod to have a little bit of force to knock that out. So a really good thing to make sure that you throw in your gear is either a segmented rod. You can get away with that if you're very careful, but I prefer a full-length solid cleaning rod like the Dewey cleaning rods. Oh, next we've got a wet erase marker and a Sharpie. The wet erase in dry conditions work really quickly on this. You can get it on there, write whatever you need. It's wet erase instead of dry erase, because the dry erase, as soon as you brush against something, it wipes all your data off. The wet erase, you're good to go, and then you can just use a little water and wipe it off, and you're good to go. And then you can write down your data for the next one. Obviously does not work in the rain, because as soon as raindrops hit that, your data washes right off. Sharpie for whatever. You never know what you may need to write on with a Sharpie. So just a good thing to have around. Pen for my notebook to write data down, write notes down, whatever I need. And then these are alcohol pens. If you are in a wet environment and you want to be able to write on a wrist coach like this, alcohol pens work great. As long as they dry before water hits them, then the water will not wash off your marks. Now, if they're still wet and water hits them, water will disturb the marks. But once it dries out, it's good to go. The drawback to that, as you can see, I do have some nice pink notes written on here. If you don't clean that off right away when you're done, then it will actually stain the material and you'll never get the marks off. So you have to be careful with the alcohol pens, but they are a really, really nice option to have. And then I've just got some other accumulated stuff in here. This guy is clipped to my key keeper in here, and this is just Spud's lens cleaning rag. Works good for iPro, works good for rifle scopes. As a rule, I usually don't touch my rifle scopes in the field. If they get dust or rain or anything on them, I'll either blow them off with my breath, or I'll just leave them alone. I usually don't try to wipe them with anything. I've got alcohol wipes for my alcohol pens, and these are just the little prep pads that you can get at a drugstore, used for wiping cuts or wiping a injection site. My son has to have regular injections, so we always have boxes of these things around the house. So I always throw a couple in the bag. And this is just some other stuff that made its way in there that's not really applicable to the match right now. And that's about it for the outside pockets. Now we'll get into the garbage that I have in the main pocket here. One of the nice things about the Maxpedition bag is I can lay this thing completely open. So whatever I need to get to in here, I can slide it all the way open and it just lays out. I don't have to tear everything out to get to it. First, my Ear Pro. These are MSA Sordins. These are really great. These are actually the Pro-X, the Supreme Pro-X, and they do have gel ear cups in them, and they are really comfortable. About the only part is, even after quite a while wearing them, if you're in a situation where you're wearing them for a couple of days, sometimes you will still get that little bit of soreness right in the middle of the top of your head. I don't have any additional band covers on these. I may try a different band cover to see if it alleviates that a little bit. This is just a regular cover that came with them. These are my favorite Ear Pro so far because they are really weather resistant. I don't have to worry about them all that much. They work great, and they're just they're great for me. I don't have much of a problem with them interfering with a rifle stock, so they're my choice. I find them much more comfortable than anything that goes inside my ears. This is usually on the outside of the bag. I'm not sure why I took it off and put it inside right now. There was something going on, I think, or maybe I wanted to ditch it to lose a little weight on a more extended match. But this is the M Pro 7 cleaning kit, and it has various different brushes and cleaning devices and gear in it just to maintain the rifle. It also, as I mentioned, has a set of regular GI cleaning rods in here. So if I need a rigid rod and I haven't got my full-length rod with me, then I have those there. This is a Tab Gear ammo pouch, and this guy is a really neat deal. We did a review on this a while back, and this is what I usually carry my ammo with when I'm out away from the vehicle. I'll use a regular plastic reloading container, and then I'll dump those cartridges into here. And the really neat thing about this is it has two different sides to it. So my ammo will stay down in here, and then I pull this divider forward and my spent cartridges will go in the back, my spent cases. And it kind of folds over like one of those old school sandwich bags there. So when you open it up, you have access to the live ammo first, and then it really does a good job of keeping the spent cases separate from the live ammo. It's got MOLLE on the back of it and mouse clips so you can attach it to the outside of the bag. I just find it easier to keep it inside. That way I can drop the bag. I don't have to try to keep my bag standing upright while I'm fishing cartridges out of it. So it just stays inside the bag really easy. It's got cartridge loops on the outside of it, but about the only thing that I use those for is if I get a bad cartridge, maybe one that has gotten damaged, then I'll stick it in the cartridge loop so I can have it segmented from my other ammo and I can get to it later. But I guess if you're in a situation where you're laying prone, you can stick some cartridges in there and have some quick access to spare ammunition. Not really a feature I use, but it's value added. It doesn't cost anything, so it's already there. This isn't a cheap piece of equipment, but I find it much nicer than the way I used to, which was carrying around the plastic ammo boxes actually inside the backpack, and that just really got annoying. My rangefinder, this is the Bushnell Elite 1600 ARC. This has been sufficient for me for most matches. The one place it didn't work well for me was at the Sniper's Hide Cup. I did have one stage that the rangefinder just didn't have the horsepower to get out there. Most of the time this is sufficient though. It's been very good for me. I don't really use the arc feature on it, which is the angle compensating feature. I just basically use it to tell me what the range to the target is. It's got extra features where you can actually set some rough gun data in it. The new Bushnell Connex has a whole lot more features and a little bit more range to it, and we're going to be doing a review on the Connex going forward, and that will probably replace this as my main rangefinder, since I can reach out further with the Connex kit than with the ARC 1600 or the Elite 1600. Magazines, I've got two AICS magazines in here, and one of them has worked its way out of its magazine pouch, and this is just a Tab Gear magazine pouch. I like this magazine pouch because I can thread it through on my belt. I don't have to be wearing a war belt or any kind of molly gear or anything. I can just thread it through, have it on my side, so I always have a spare magazine quick to grab. This one, same thing. This is a Triad tactical magazine pouch, and I keep 2 malice clips on the back of it, and I will also thread this on my belt, but this will usually stay further back or it will stay on my strong side. That way it is a backup magazine, and of course it depends upon the stage and how the match is set up. A lot of times I don't actually use this. A lot of times what I will do is this will be my backup mag or my reload magazine on my belt, and I will have another magazine that I load with my cartridges, and this one will just stay in my pocket until I start the stage, and I'll load the magazine and go. That way it just keeps a minimum amount of gear on me, and as we get into the winter months, I find that a lot of times my outer gear is covering my belt, so I can't actually get to any of this. And I don't have a bolt gun war belt set up yet. I do have a gas gun war belt set up that actually has mag pouches and utility pouch and all that I can wear over all of my other gear for when I run the gas gun, because gas gun matches tend to have things like speed reloads and a lot of extra crazy stuff where you may need to get to something on your belt quickly. So that's it for the magazines. I will usually carry 3 magazines at a match, 2 to 3 magazines. Usually 2 is about all you need. Carry a third one as a backup in case one goes down or one gets lost or something, or I need to loan one to somebody. I do have this little guy, a Shemag or Shemag or however you want to pronounce it, in here. Not for wearing. The main reason that I have it is because it's absorbent. I can use it kind of as a towel to wipe sweat out of my face. And there are situations where you'll end up with the sun glaring in you at a point where being able to just cover up your face and cover up the ocular housing of the scope will assist you greatly. So that's kind of a last catch, you know, whatever I need it for. I think it's kind of goofy to wear them wrapped around your head at the range. The one time that I have actually worn them is when I was out getting absolutely cooked by the sun, getting the back of my head, neck, and my ears cooked. And you can put this on underneath a ball cap and put your ear pro over top of it, and it's thin enough your ear pro will still seal over it, and it will give you a little bit of sun protection. But that's the whole purpose for that. This is kind of neat if you don't want to spend the money on one of these tab gear ammo pouches. You can do something similar with, this is just a vinyl pouch, school supplies pouch. You can get them at Walmart. I think that's actually where I got this one. It's nowhere near as durable as the tab gear pouch, but they're fairly inexpensive. And what I will use this for is if it's a match where the rules say I have to carry everything for the duration of the match, then the ammo that I'm actually using for the day will be in the tab gear pouch, so I can swap around with my spent casings. And then the ammo for the next day will usually be in this pouch. So that way I don't need the ability to put my spent casings back in it. I just need something to hold the ammo without the extra weight of the plastic box. So that works for me for that. I guess you could probably get away with the same thing with a gallon freezer bag, but this seems to be a little bit more durable. The vinyl keeps the projectiles from poking through. Bug spray and sunblock, it should kind of be self-explanatory. We're shooting out in the wild, so you don't want to get cooked. You don't want bugs chewing you up. This is an old Vortex Solo RT monocular. This is an 8-power, and it does have a reticle built into it. And this is really nice to be able to just glass the stage whenever they allow you to do so, to locate your targets. I love it because when we go up for a stage brief, I'll usually grab this out of my bag and I'll go up, and as they're pointing targets out, instead of trying to scramble to get on a spotting scope or something, I can just throw this guy up and I can identify the targets. And 8-power is usually enough to actually see the targets. If they have number boards or some kind of identifiers, or if they have specific shapes, you can usually point that out through an 8-power scope. The advantage of 8-power is you don't have this big Mongo heavy scope. Again, the advantage over binoculars is you really only need one to do what we're doing. Binoculars are better in a lot of situations, but if you're just trying to locate a target to get an idea of how you're going to address the stage, then a medium power monocular like this is a really good option to have. It's fairly lightweight, it's really durable. This thing has survived surprisingly well in my bag. It doesn't actually have any lens caps on it because it came with some funky case type deal, and so it just floats around in the bottom of the bag with no lens caps on it, and it hasn't gotten damaged. We did actually, the first one that we had a little bit of a design flaw in it, and it had to go back to Vortex, and no questions asked, they replaced it with the latest design, which actually has a diopter adjustment and it has a focus. So that solved the problem that we were having where the reticle and the target was never focused in the same plane. So now you actually have the ability to focus it, and it's a very, very useful piece. Again, that was a prize table pickup, so it just got tossed in the bag. And lastly, this is my survival toolkit. This is a Borka Tools torque driver kit that we actually did a full review on. It's got a really cool tab gear pouch that lays out flat here, and then the tools slide in or out from either side. This is a torque driver and an assortment of bits that will pretty much allow me to service or work on anything on a rifle. If I have to totally pull a rifle out of the chassis, remove the optics, remove the mounts, remove all that stuff, disassemble a chassis, this toolkit will let me do it. It weighs a little bit more than I would like, but I sacrifice the weight for the ability to take care of any problem that I need. And that usually always stays in the bottom of the bag. So it almost never gets left in the car, because if it's just something where you're on the line and you realize the fastener on your scope has come loose, it's nice to be able to break this guy out, get a really accurate torque, crank that down, and then go on with life with no fuss at all. And the only thing I have left in here is a bungee cord. And what the bungee cord is usually used for, if I'm actually taking the shooting mat out to the stage, then I'll use the bungee to actually bungee it to the outside of the pack so it's not taking up room inside. And that is all the gear that I generally carry in this guy. I'll zip it up real quick here and talk to you about some of the features on the outside of the pack that I like. Again, Maxpedition doesn't make this guy anymore, I don't believe. So there are some other packs that they have in their lineup that is very similar to this. It's neat, it has a little bungee down here on the bottom, so if you have a rolled up jacket or something, you can stick it in there. But what I'll usually end up doing is sticking my jacket across this little Y setup here and then snapping it down. This Y setup on the front is totally removable, but if I don't want to mess with the bungee cord or any of that nonsense, I can stick the shooting mat across the top here and cinch this little yoke down, and it will hold it really well. As I said, it holds jackets great. If you don't want to mess with this, it has a buckle down here at the bottom that holds this main strap, and then two buckles up here at the top, and you can totally take that Y off. But most of the time, I just leave it on there. If I need to access something quickly in the pack, I can just unzip it and get in through the side and leave the Y fastened on there. So just kind of neat. It's got molly loops here on the side, and that's where I clip all the carabiners to carry my bags. It has these little pouches on the side, which I'll stick snacks down in it, and water bottles. So it's really nice to be able to carry a water bottle on the outside of your pack. A lot of times the matches will have just those cheap plastic disposable water bottles, and you can just throw a couple of those in and you're set for a little while. One thing that I didn't cover, which is in this pocket, which we talked about before, this is a Sidewinder dope card holder, and it just sticks on the side of the rifle, and I can have my dope on there, so it's stuck out in front of me. Usually it's actually stuck on the rifle. For whatever reason, I had pulled it off the rifle and stuck it in the bag, so that's floating around over here. And refills for the dope card holder. On the back here, there's no waist belt on this pack, which I like because if I'm wearing a war belt, the waist belt will actually get in the way. I'm not carrying so much weight in this pack that I really need a waist belt to distribute that weight down. The shoulder straps are nice and contoured. They have a decent amount of padding without being absolutely crazy on padding. Again, not a ton of weight in this thing, so I don't need huge fluffy shoulder straps. It does have a sternum strap, which is nice, just to pull those straps away from your shoulders so they're not digging in. And, you know, just little hooks that you can attach stuff on. The back panel is nice and padded. It has kind of an air mesh on here. I actually wish it had just regular Cordura. I haven't had any durability issues with this, but it does soak up water, and you have to be careful when you set the pack down that you set it down on the bottom, not back down, because it will suck the dew right out of the grass, and then you'll end up having a nice wet back until you can set it and let the sun dry it out. On the bottom, it does have this nice vinyl reinforcement material, which helps keep a little bit of the water from soaking in from the ground into the bottom of the pack. This is coated nylon, but it is not waterproof or water resistant in any way, shape, or form. The zippers up here on top will let water pass right through. So you notice that a lot of the stuff that I have actually is Ziploc bagged. We shoot precision rifle matches, rain or shine. So I need to be able to take this stuff out and not worry about anything inside the bag getting soaked. One drawback to that is when you get back, you do have to take everything out of the bag and lay everything out so it can all dry out, because you don't want any mildew or anything in the bottom of your bag. I believe that is most of what I take when I go out and shoot a precision rifle match. It seems like a lot of gear, but it all has its own place. And because I have this bag set up the way I do, when I go out to shoot precision rifle, it's easy just to grab this bag, grab some ammo, grab some targets, the rifle, and go. I don't have to spend a lot of time walking around the shop trying to collect everything. If you do a lot of shooting routinely, it's nice to have a bag that has all your stuff in it ready to go, so you can just grab it, dash out the door, and go. That is about it on the match gear that I carry, or the gear that I will take out for just a regular training day. I didn't talk about my tripod because that is really a specific thing for each match, and we've got some stuff coming up with tripods, so that will be coming in the future. If you guys have any questions or comments on any of the gear that I've shown here, please leave them in the comment section down below or send them to us on Facebook or Twitter. If you like this video, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, get out and shoot.